visit that my colleagues and I paid to the UK
Sorry.
at the end of last year. One of the highlights of our trip was the meeting of local community groups in Jaywick, and we got a lot of really useful and important information from the community groups who wanted to explain their perspective on the problems have been the main results? What's the outcome been? 10 years of policies of austerity, which are not in the process of being changed, even if benefit levels are no longer capped, even if a number of significant concessions are made in terms of how universal credit actually operates. None of that amounts to a rolling back of the really dramatic changes that have been introduced to the overall system of social protection in the United Kingdom over the last 10 years. It's time now for communities to start saying, okay, you've done your experiment, you've tried to re-engineer things, and what are the results? And of course, the results that my report showed is a really not just a frayed social net, but more importantly, community strength, community solidarity has been deeply undermined, a sense of desperation, a sense of isolation on the part of many, not just individuals, but communities. And these, in the longer term, have really major negative consequences. The extent of child poverty, the extent to which the prevention of poverty is now well on the rise again. These are major challenges for the society. But I'm sorry to have to say this, you can't be looking to international actors like the European Court or others to bring these changes about. It's quintessentially a challenge for the British Parliament. That's where British policies are made. That's where they have to be changed. I'm delighted that you're having this follow-up, and I very much hope that you'll be able to keep working on these issues, and I have no doubt that the efforts you make will make a big difference. Thank you.
So I think Andrew, Jude, and maybe some others are going to kind of summarise that report a little and do a bit of analysis on it. Thank you, Andrew.
That's right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the report, very briefly about what the report contains. Very briefly about the government's response, which has been mixed, or rather confused, I suppose is one way of phrasing it. And then Jude will pick up in particular on areas that were particularly relevant to this community that were picked up in the Jaywick visit by the Special Rapporteur and then subsequently as it appeared in the report. So the report, the headline feature, some of you would have seen them reporting on it in the news over the last few weeks, a few months. The fundamental headline feature is the government has violated its human rights obligations. In a nutshell, the British government is violating its human rights obligations to its own citizens, its own people. It's doing so in the following ways. Here are some of the key kind of standout statistics, if you like. 14 million people in this country live in poverty. 14 million. 1/5 of the population. I don't know what the size of London is now. It used to be about 6 million when I lived there. I suppose it's more than that now, but probably twice the size of London. So 1 in 5 people in this country, this is the 5th richest country on earth, live in poverty. 1.5 million people live in destitution, which is an even worse form of poverty. In effect, 1.5 million people. That's about the population of Birmingham, for example. 1 in 3 children. I'm a parent and a grandparent now, believe it or not. Some of you are parents, right? 1 in 3 children. 1 in 3 children in this country live in poverty. That's shocking. This is the 5th wealthiest country on earth. Absolutely shocking. There are record levels of hunger and homelessness. My mother moved back to Germany in the mid-80s. When I said to her a while back that there were proliferating food banks in this country, she didn't know what I was referring to. What's a food bank? There are food banks everywhere now, as you know, as we know. There are drastically reduced community services. Despite the efforts of people such as yourselves to sustain the community, there's less and less support provided. There's a dramatically falling life expectancy. Just to pick out one statistic or one fact that was raised in a House of Lords debate recently on inequalities that was initiated by a Labour Lord. It was basically a story of 2 Kensingtons. There's a Kensington in, where's Rob gone?
Liverpool.
There's a Kensington in Liverpool, and there's a Kensington in London, right? The London Borough of Kensington, very Grenfell Tower, to a centre of Wildcat, as you know. A male child born in Kensington, Liverpool today can expect to live 18 years less than a male child born in Kensington. 18 years! That's...
You have a local difference. Between here and Brenton.
Yep.
And similar numbers as well.
Absolutely.
And that's just a few miles.
Yep. Absolutely. The average is 8 years less life expectancy for people who are living in poverty, for those who are living in relative affluence. There's obviously a dramatic cuts to legal aid and to access to justice through the court system. Almost 60% of those living in poverty are in a family where someone works. Because the government says that the response to poverty is not more welfare and not more benefits, but more employment. Philip Alston directly addressed that particular issue, saying, well, then really we're talking about the nature of the employment. And if the employment is the remedy to the problem, how is it that 60% of those in poverty are actually working? 2.8 million people in poverty are in families where all of the adults in that family are in full-time employment. So the government's response, the government's policy direction has been for a long time now, employment is the way to solve poverty. And at one level that sounds right, doesn't it? People don't want to spend their entire lives dependent upon welfare, right? You don't want to feel like you're kind of, regardless of whether you think of yourself as a human rights claimant or not, you don't want to spend your entire life living in those conditions. And employment, it's said, is the way to solve those particular issues. Well, clearly, the statistics don't lie. 6.9 million people living in poverty are in families where someone has a disability. For example, if there's someone within a family who is disabled, registered disabled, then the likelihood of that family living in poverty is significantly increased. Okay, the government's response, and I'm not here to score narrow party political points, yeah? It's irrelevant. It really is irrelevant to the way in which we need to develop an effective response. So the government's response to this is mixed. Philip Hammond, Chancellor of the Exchequer, said in answer to his response to the Philip Alston report, it's nonsense. Quote, nonsense. He goes on, of course, there are people struggling with the cost of living, I understand that, but the point is that we're addressing these things through getting to the root causes, which is through more employment. Completely overlooking, of course, the fact that there are so many people living in poverty in unemployment. I just want to get to the champion. I'll just finish up a little bit and then I'll pick up questions. All right. A spokesperson for the Department for Works and Pensions that many people have come into contact with in various ways described what Philip Alston has laid out based upon a great deal of research as barely believable. Amber Rudd, who some people see as the kind of humane face of the Conservative cabinet, is reputedly seeking to lodge a formal complaint to the UN that Philip Alston has somehow been a naughty boy and hasn't been sticking to his mandate. Ministers responded that it was the report was a completely inaccurate picture of our approach to combating poverty, and instead claimed that the UK was among, are you ready for this, sitting comfortably, one of the happiest countries in the world. Pointing to the world of happiness, the UK, pleased to know, is the 15th happiest country out of 103 countries. Do you know the sample that that's based upon? 2 to 3,000 people. I don't do the maths. I never finished my school. I can't do maths, right? So I use my calculator. 2,000 people, 3,000 people. Do you know the percentage of that? As a percentage of the 14 million people living in poverty? No. What was that? Very close. Very close. 0.0046%. So, Philip Alston himself, subsequently, because he's a cool guy, right? Subsequently, and an angry guy, actually, like most of us working in this field, characterised the government's response as basically consistent undeniable. Government's denied. The report was barely believable. In other words, it's a load of rubbish, basically, which is a profoundly peculiar thing for what should be a serious government responding to a serious report. Distraction. The second strategy was distraction. Look, we're the 15th, yay, just something to be proud of. We're the 15th happiest country on the planet, apparently, so distraction. Or third, and most concertedly, I think, probably, was attack the messenger. And attack the messenger by politicising the messenger. By saying, Philip Alston's a lefty. Philip Alston has a certain kind of political, ideological agenda to drive. And what that does is it completely overlooks what I said to you at the very beginning, which is that fundamental human rights are fundamental. They're not fundamental human rights because you happen to be a socialist, or a liberal democrat, or a green. They're fundamental human rights. Full stop. So all Philip Alston is doing actually is holding the government to account for international legal obligations that it has entered into. Previous British governments have entered into, and this government continues to sustain. So the content, the headline features of the Philip Alston report are shocking, right? Really shocking. The government's response is shocking, and that may depress some people. It may lead some people to think maybe there's no point trying to politically mobilise. But the whole thrust of Philip Alston's address was precisely actually this is what we need to do. What we need to do is to destroy cameras, destroy mics, build barricades. What we need to do is to engage in precisely these kinds of efforts. Jude's going to speak in much more detail because Jude knows his stuff much more precisely than I do about the particular areas that are particular importance to you. Before I move on, sorry my friend, there was a question.
Yes, why don't you come down to detail to see how communities, we are trying to get together like the happy club and stuff like that, to actually try and make it. Why don't they come down to how much of a problem we have and take that to go? Or why don't some of us get together and go to the House of Parliament if they're going to speak? But we've got a right to speak, so why don't you come here?
I could give you a million answers.
Yeah.
You know the answers, aren't you? He doesn't care. It would be politically embarrassing. Politics has been dominated for so many years now by sound bites, by imagery, the imagery of Philip Hammond being harangued by people saying, I'm sorry, but what you described as nonsense is my life. Actually, think about how that would play.
Well, what's that him coming in the gate for a week, not hanging in the house?
I'm going to give Roy back the kind of baton of chairing, and Jude's going to speak in more detail about it.
Excuse me, I'm having a bit of a panic attack. I actually need to leave, so I just wanted to say sorry to everyone that found it difficult to deal with my outburst, and I apologise. It was a bit of a misunderstanding, and have a great night. Sorry.
Thank you for your
Yeah, Jude would like to speak about the programming are the students going to join in this? There's Beatrice and Lauren. Okay, thank you. Cheers.
So thanks very much for inviting us to this meeting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on from what Andrew's been saying, but talk a bit more about the report in the context of J-Link. And many of you came to the meeting in November, and that was a really important meeting for Philip Alston during his visit, and he also visited, I think, 11 different places throughout the United exposed to. There are also issues to other women's rights issues, so particularly issues to do with women being, in some cases, primary caregivers, and issues to do with the burden that women face in that context. Issues to do with period poverty, as a direct reference to that in Alston's report, and various issues to do with the experience that children living in poverty have had in the local area. So there's some issues that you find in the report that are specific to people's group, to specific particular groups, and if you look at the chart, which the students have done a brilliant job making, very grateful to them, you can find different groups and the summary of them linked of what was raised in the meeting by different people from the community. And then you can find some of the references that are made in the report by Alston to those issues, and also recommendations. And I'm going to just summarise a couple of them in a minute. I'll come back to Cecilia and please ask them. Can you go to the next slide, please? And then we have a whole range of more general human rights issues that are raised in the meeting. So issues to do with mental health. We heard at the meeting about issues to do with depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, suicidal feelings, and that was something which was raised in the report in terms of, particularly in terms of the very limited mental health services and the cutbacks to services which have occurred in this country. Issues, a lot of focus here and in the report, obviously, on issues to do with universal credit, both in terms of the digitalisation process and how everything has to be done online, but also to do with people being out of cash and how inhumane it has been in terms of the introduction of universal credit. Issues, a big issue that came up here, and it's also a big issue in the report as well, is issues to do with really rubbish local transport and how expensive it is and how frequent it is and how that's really difficult in terms of people getting to the service, getting to work. And also in that context, the issue of privatisation and that it's really important that these are not just services which are kind of farmed out to the private sector and then they can profit from provide a decent service for the community, because that directly affects people's ability to access their rights to work, to access education, so on and so forth. And then all these other issues that were raised, which are really critical human rights issues, again, not necessarily the human rights issues that we've traditionally thought about in this country, but adequate housing. Had lots of comments about people's housing, poor housing, issues to do with extortionate rent and so on and so forth. And then there's some sort of bigger sort of thematic issues to do with financial policy, austerity, issues to do with the Brexit context. So there were only really two issues which we detected from the notes that weren't really raised in the report, and that was issues to do with university fees and also issues to do with youth employment, which weren't touched on. But that's not to say they're not important human rights issues. There's a lot of things that have to be included in the report, and not everything always makes the cut, but they're still really important issues. So if those are your issues, weren't there, don't feel discouraged, but they can still be taken up as human rights issues. Last slide, please. So this is what's happened so far. So we have the consultations in Jaywick around the country, and also the consultations which we have with the government as well, and different civil society organisations. The report is now being released and the recommendations, and now is the time for action. We've had Alston also re-emphasising that. So, in this chart here, I've got the recommendations. There was quite a short set of recommendations in the report, but many of them are really relevant to the context here, as well as to many other places in the country. Some of the recommendations are aimed at central government, and all of them. Some of them very much talk about issues which can be and should be addressed by central government, but also by local authorities as well. So those actions that we can, and recommendations that we can sort of take forward. The ones for central government are important as well, because those are informed by your voice, by what you said. So he's in a way the loudspeaker, the mouthpiece for what people have said. And so those are also your recommendations going to the government. So I'll just read out a couple of the recommendations, the ones that sort of the more locally relevant ones. varying needs of communities and different tax bases into account. So that is, you know, we've talked about the lack of receptivity of tendering and also with perhaps slightly more receptive cultures, but they are also facing this difficulty in terms of development funding, and they therefore also have a battle to fight. Maybe this report is something that they can take towards as well as us, because they will want more money, we want them to have more money as well. So another recommendation as well, very simple one, that the state should review and remedy the systematic disadvantage inflicted by current policies on women as well as on children, persons with disabilities, older people and ethnic minorities. And that's equally relevant wherever you are in the country, whether it's central government or local government. So we kind of have this space, we have the recommendation, and actually I should have put another column in here really, which is implementation. Has the recommendation been implemented? So perhaps we can use this, has it been implemented? Perhaps we can use this as a checklist, right? Thinking about taking things forward, what has and what hasn't been done, and holding the government to account. And hopefully, over the course of the coming months and years, not every one of these recommendations is going to be actions, but hopefully we can have a good strike rate, some of them. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jude. We've got a couple of items now. There's Rebecca Rocket went to Geneva last week, and Phil Alston's report was presented to the UK government, and she spoke at that event. So she might want to say a few words on that.
Well, I'll be really, really quick. Running out of time a bit.
Just to say that it was an amazing privilege to go. I don't know really how it happened, but I just got an email. But why it meant so much to me, in 2016 I was working in a really shit job, less than a living wage, and it was in Freighton. I was cycling to work, and I tried everything. John Wood got union recognition. I arranged a meeting with one of the directors to try and shame him. I was trying to shame the company on social media, like stalking the director. I did everything I possibly could. And one day, I just thought, shit, I'm just going to die. If I don't get a living wage and I carry on like this, like what's the inevitable result? You just, you know, this isn't a life. So I stopped, and I handed in my notice that day. I'm not going to work. I'm going to. It's no good from within this situation to be campaigning for better conditions. It's impossible. So I quit that day, and I've been talking about it for 2 years, and like just being an agitator. And so to be there and talk about this injustice and inequality was just phenomenal. I was just amazed. So and when I was kind of really excited about the process and this enormous responsibility. So what I would do is I would go for runs every morning, and as I was running, I was trying to think about all the problems in the report, and I'd try and put them into haikus in order to like organise my thoughts. So I'm just going to share those with you to be really true. But the important thing about me going is Phil Alston's approach is just really brilliant. And one, he came here and took testimony from people like he did in other places. It was just, and to have a representative there on the panel with Calder and other experts at this event was amazing. And then Ben, you can put up the picture. The next day, he actually took some school children, and as Jude pointed out, that they feature in the report, like their right to being invited. And Philip Alston's message is the rights holders need to be at the table for these discussions. And look, I was there, these children were there, it's just brilliant. His approach is really, really, really encouraging. So, yeah, fantastic. We all want to be at the table. So I'm just going to share these haikus, which just like condenses what I said into a really, really, really lovely. So the first one. All humans are born equal. On this, our planet, we have human rights. And the other one was, listen, Amber Rudd, and I'm going to put my finger. Listen, Amber
Thank you very much, Rebecca. I'd like to hear from the Happy Club, so Danny, Dan, or anyone else. It's a very inspiring, and you're actually, the Happy Club are actually doing stuff right here in Jaywick now, and getting the community engaged and trying to get things done. So if they'd like, if you know, Danny or anyone else would like to come and speak.
It was around 1986 that I first moved to Jaywick, and Butlins just shut down. If you remember Butlins, it was a big holiday camp, and Jaywick was kind of an overspill for Butlins, so it used to be buzzing whenever I was little. And then when I got to about the age of 13, 14, Jaywick was just very quiet for me. I thought, wow, this is not the way it was when I was really little. And basically, I've seen a lot of decline, because obviously it's a holiday village, and obviously without the holiday park being here, you can imagine what happened to Jaywick. So basically, I've lived here from 1986 till today, and I've always wanted to give Jaywick a voice. So basically, when Channel 5 come to Jaywick about 2015, making his programme, which I didn't know what it's about, I just thought, yeah, I want to be involved, because it's Jaywick, and I love Jaywick. I don't know about the politics of it all. So basically, I said, yeah, I'll be in your programme, and I basically showed them what I do in Jaywick. And I care about people, I try and give people a voice. And when they came back for Series 2, I thought, I weren't so happy with the first series, even though I was happy with the part I played. I weren't happy with what it was portrayed, because I know Jaywick to be different from that. I know people that work every day, drive to London, drive back. There's a lot of positive things in Jaywick, which I feel were not shown. So I wanted to do that for Series 2. So when it came to Series 2, I said to them, yeah, I'll do Series 2, but I want you to help me set up a youth club for adults. And I want to call it the Jaywick Sounds Happy Club. They all laughed, I don't care what they think, I don't care what anyone thinks. Being in Jaywick all these years gives me that right. And basically, I didn't think anyone ever cared about me when I was little. I don't think they care about me now, but I don't really care because I've lived in Jaywick all my life. And it kind of, that's the way it makes you feel, you know, Jaywick. And I know how the young people feel. I look at the young people and I see my face on them, and I know exactly what they need, but it's hard for me to give it to them because I don't have it. But I know what the government can give to them, which is opportunities, a voice. I thought I can at least help the adults. So that's what I did. I created the Jaywick Sounds Happy Club, just an idea for television, done a few meetings, then the television, Dan Casey got behind me, and I thought, wow, there's no stopping me now. And another woman called Donna Mims, she does all the admin, she got behind me as well. And with a team of 4 of us, we're ready to take over the world. So you haven't heard of the Jaywick Sounds Happy Club, you're in trouble. And basically, I think every community all over the world could have a happy club. I don't just think it's for Jaywick, I think it's for everyone. And I'd like to work with all communities all over the world to give people a voice. And ever since we've done the Happy Club, we've had many success stories. You know, I'm not going to go into individual ones, but you know, a lot of people come there to every meeting and we take what they want to be done, we hear their voice, we email the council the next day of all the queries of Jaywick, they reply to us, and to me it's just a success. And I just think we can all learn from each other, we should all work together, and we are the Jaywick Sounds Happy Club. And you're all welcome.
Thank you.
And although, from my point of view, I had some anecdotal evidence because I spoke to people in the CAB, the Citizens Advice Bureau in Fort William and in Newmarket, 2 very different places. But there was a spike in suicides when Universal Credit was brought out there. So Philip Olsen and his team thought, well, I'd better look into this. So he went onto the coroner's office and he tried to get data on spikes and suicides in various parts of the country and see if we could correlate it to the effect of austerity. I mean, there has been a cut in benefit claims. I suppose ever since the Milton Friedman economic disaster model that was taken up for 2010, we don't have resources in local authorities, we don't have resources in the health service, we don't have resources in education, because we won't have tax cuts for the parasites, basically. That's all I'd like to say.
Any other questions? Or shall we move on to the next stage?
Andy over there.
Oh, Andy, please.
2 quick ones. First one's just a obviously coming and doing this report, and you're coming to Jaywick because it's quite a private area, would be if there was someone from Jaywick there, rather than you guys speak to us. That might have been helpful. The other one is, we've got human rights lawyers. Does anyone want to come out here and see some stuff that should be an absolute national disgrace? So yeah, I'll leave my number. I can show you stuff that maybe echo.
I mean, the Happy Club's great, but I think that could develop better. Everything can get better. We can all work together and we can all learn from each other. So it's a very inclusive programme that I envisage coming about. And, you know, and the whole thing is, this whole thing is not just about Jaywick. It's about the whole of the UK, it's about the whole world really. But the Essex University are focusing on the whole of East Anglia, okay? So the reason to come to Jaywick, okay, Phil Alston came to Jaywick because his understanding was defamation, that kind of thing, which is correct. But actually the event was so uplifting, it was such a, the Jaywick welcomed everyone in, and it was such a fantastic event, it seemed like a no-brainer not, you know, we had to have it at Jaywick, so it was so good. So yeah, it's all about inclusivity. Rob, please.
Yeah, I was involved in the last meeting, Joe. It actually gave testimony to some on benefits, and I want Jaywick to take away something tonight. You know, I'm a Scouser. I was born in Liverpool, moved down to Clapton when I was 16 years of age, and the first thing I noticed, and sorry for people from Clapton, was the lack of the community spirit. And I said, I don't live in Jaywick. I come down as often as I can. I've been involved down here. I've drunk in the Never Say Die a few times. I've been around Jaywick quite a few times over the years. I've got friends down who've lived in Jaywick. And what I love about Jaywick is that you look out for each other, you've the community spirit, and if you pull that together and you let other people in to stand alongside you, you can make great change in this community. I'm really, really sure of that. And it's been a privilege to, you know, be here tonight. And, you know, the love you've given us, the boost I got walking out of the meeting in November, and the welcome, it's brilliant. And we want to work alongside you, we want to stand with you.
Yeah, I've been in Clapton 32 years odd now, and I've moved to Jaywick 14th of October 2014. I agree with the chap that's just said. I've moved into Jaywick, and since I've moved to Jaywick, after what I do, which I'm not proud of, but Jaywick is the most caring place I've moved to. Yeah. But the main thing I want to put across, which is on my heart, I've got epilepsy. But there's a lot of people out there, which I've tried myself to get work. And as soon as they know that you've got epilepsy or things like that, they just automatically show you the door.
Anyone want to respond or any other questions?
You could always be a gangster.
Well, it could be a lot of things, but that's why I'm now volunteering for 3 jobs.
He's employing people, by the way.
Come and talk to me after the show. We'll find you a job.
We'll find him a job.
We've already got him one.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
If everyone's happy,
Yeah, supervisor.
we're going to go into the next part of the meeting, which is there's a couple of housing and benefit type things to focus on. So Lucy would like to do the first one, please.
Right, hi everyone, thank you for having me speak today. I come from the Essex Law Clinic, which is linked to the Human Rights Centre. I'm just going to talk a little bit about legal remedies as a tool for promoting and protecting human rights. We talked a lot about campaigning, and there's lots of different approaches to enforcing your human rights. I just want to start with something that Philip Alston said in his report. He highlighted the problems faced by those experiencing poverty in effectively doesn't mean anything unless you can implement them or you can find a way to enforce them. And he was talking about improved access to justice. I wish it was just decimation, because that would be 1/10 of legal aid has gone, but it's much worse than that. We've lost up to a third, and housing cases have halved. And now in Essex, North Essex and Suffolk, there is no legal aid provider, and 91% of residents in East Anglia have no access to housing legal aid. So the kind of issues that you were talking about, you know, legal aid was put there to help you resolve those kind of issues and give you legal support, and that is no longer around. So I'm not here to be the voice of doom, although there are, you know, some severe problems. I want to put it into the context of what people like the Essex Law Clinic are doing and what groups like Lloyd's Group are doing. So at the Essex Law Clinic, our aim is to promote knowledge of legal rights and to facilitate access to justice. The way we do this, we train law students who we supervise to offer initial legal advice in areas like housing, that we've talked about tonight, benefits, family law, employment, and we focus on social welfare. And we're developing public legal education and law reform projects. And this is to fill, to a very small extent, the gap left by the reduction in legal and advice services. We can't replace legal aid, and we can't pretend to, but we can help people understand legal options and avenues to resolve situations. I think someone has already said tonight about, you know, knowing what your rights are is the first step to accessing those rights and enforcing them. So if you look at some of the things that Philip Alston's report has highlighted, and Jude did a good job of pulling out some of the things that were particular issues here in Jaywick, but I think also across the country, these issues were echoed across the country: affordability of housing, poor housing conditions, benefits issues, you mentioned today, discrimination, family issues. For some of these issues, and I'm afraid not all of them, some of the issues relating to affordability and private rental, there just are no laws. It's not illegal, but we can talk about that perhaps at the end. But there are legal remedies for some of these issues, poor housing conditions, there are a lot of legal remedies. And accessing these can help people enforce their human rights for things like family life, adequate, secure, affordable housing, fair treatment, free of discrimination, how homes are distributed, how workplaces treat their employees. These are all issues that there may be a legal remedy for, but it's only one tool, it's only one approach, and it's not the only approach. In the clinic, what we've traditionally done is work with individuals and individual cases to inform people of their rights and how to enforce them. Increasingly, we're working with community groups and public legal education and law reform to try and have a wider impact. Now, working with individuals and individual cases can have a massive impact for that individual. It has a really important effect. But it has another important effect, which is the ripple effect of cases being resolved, and can have a powerful impact in sort of keeping people honest. So it's reminding landlords and local authorities and employers of what people's rights are and what their legal responsibilities are. And because legal protections for rights are only as good as their implementation, and can only be used if people know their rights and how the law protects them. So what I'd like to do is just give you an example which will speak to some of the issues that you've raised. Unfortunately, it's not the same as your situation, but it is related. And I want to give an example of how the ripple effect and how successful legal challenges can make a difference. And there's been a recent case that was decided by the Supreme Court, which Roy referred to, which is the case of Samuels, case of a young mother of 4 children with learning difficulties against Birmingham local authority. Ms Samuels was evicted for rent arrears, quite a familiar story. She had full housing benefit, but that left her with a £150 shortfall for her rent each month, as the local housing allowance was set well below local rent levels. And you know, unfortunately, it happens, yeah, it's happening everywhere. And you know, there isn't any legislation to force the local housing allowance to increase. It's been held at the same rate, while rents, particularly in East Anglia, I don't know if anyone saw that in the paper recently, rents have been increasing at an astronomical rent. She went to local authority for help because she was homeless. Now there are some statutory protections for homeless people, particularly vulnerable people, people in priority need. The local authority said that she became homeless, it was her own fault because she deliberately chose not to pay her rent by not using her other benefits. So because she didn't use her income support and her child support to pay the rent, then she was considered to be intentionally homeless. And these benefits are obviously subsistence benefits. Benefits are set at the lowest, probably below the level of subsistence. You know, they were for her children and her living expenses. So this case speaks to many of the issues raised in Philip Alston's report, many of the issues
raised here in Jaywick. Benefit cuts, unaffordable housing, child poverty, people living below subsistence levels using food banks. So the council... Yes, making it very difficult for people to access what benefits there even are. So the council were basically saying that they wouldn't house her because it's her fault she couldn't afford the rent out of the basic income provided through benefits. And the case went all the way to the Supreme Court, who looked at what could be considered objectively assessed reasonable living expenses and declared that it was wrong to consider that someone living within the level of subsistence benefits could be intentionally homeless. The rent was simply not affordable, and people shouldn't be expected to live below subsistence level to afford their rent. Now, the ripple effect of this is within homelessness law, so that's why it doesn't help necessarily people in the private rental sector in the situation you were talking about. But it recognises that people shouldn't be expected to live below subsistence levels, and this is what Philip Alston picked up around the country, people being expected to live below subsistence levels. And they shouldn't have their rights taken away from them if they do. And if they have rent arrears as a consequence of unaffordable housing, they shouldn't have their right to be rehoused by the council taken away from them. So this is an example of how a legal case can enforce rights. That, you know, housing law particularly is a mishmash of lots of different laws, protecting rights in different ways, and it's not always easy to navigate. But it also was pushing back at the attitude that people can and should survive below subsistence levels just because they're on benefits. And the consequences of poverty, which in this case was eviction for this family, is the fault of those experiencing poverty. So it's a really important case, and the ripple effect is that housing officers up and down the country, when they are presented with families who've been made homeless because benefits and the local housing allowance doesn't cover their rent, they can't turn them away and say, well, it's your fault, basically, for not choosing between feeding your children and paying your rent. Okay, and that's why it's such a significant case that, that we wanted to bring to you. The kind of reality check of this situation is that it took 2 national charities and a massive fight with the legal aid agency to get this case funded, and it took 4 years for Miss Samuels to get her housing. So, you know, it's a test case, it's having a ripple effect, but it was a painful journey to get there. It's not an avenue that's open to everyone, but on a smaller level, challenging local authorities, challenging your landlords for your rights can make a large difference. There's quite a history of councils not complying with their responsibilities, with their homelessness duties, turning people away, saying we don't owe you a duty, you're not sick enough, you've made yourself intentionally homeless, landlords not following proper procedure, not complying with their statutory duties. 1 or 2 legal challenges can help people keep people honest. It's not necessarily going to change the whole world, but it can change things locally, and it can change, and will definitely change things for individual. And that's the ripple effect of legal challenges. They change behaviours. And action doesn't have to be at the level of the Supreme Court, as I think is clear. You know, you can challenge Tendring District Council to fulfil their responsibilities.
Without taking them to court,
sorry.
Without taking them to court.
Yeah, sometimes. You don't have to take them to court because they have challenge systems, but the challenge system is difficult.
Stacked. Perhaps a good way.
Yeah, but with help, it can be done. And actually, they don't want to spend the time responding to challenges. It's easier for them to actually fulfil their duty to start with. But
Not Tendring. I'm really not trying. Tendring District Council, I've got 4 separate community. I work in the community support office, and I have 4 separate issues going on in TDC at the minute, and no legal backing or anything else like that. They will continue, no matter what it costs them, all the way, regardless of being totally wrong, inaccurate, not having correct paperwork. Even if we presented paperwork to them,
yeah,
and they've gone, well, look at that issue, it was issued on this date.
yeah,
And it took a solicitor going in there to actually show you asking them if they were barristers, and it walked away. They dropped. But one of the biggest problems that we've got to see is anyone that's in rented accommodation, families, individuals, regardless, and there's an issue or a problem, and they're given notice of eviction, section 21, whether as long as they pay the rent, TDC won't help. They insist that you are evicted first, going through a legal battle for a liability,
yeah, and
incurring all the costs,
yeah.
and you're then told you come back to TDC and we'll try and help you. Well, I'll say I work with families and they can't be living in the back of the car for 2 weeks by TDC decide what they're going to
shouldn't be doing that. There is new law, but again, it comes to implementation, and it speaks to something that Andrew was saying about, and it came up in the autumn report about the funds available for local authorities. So there's new homelessness legislation which was supposed to address that, but there was no new funding for local authorities. So this comes on to my final point. And I would be interested to talk to you actually separately about those cases because, you know, and I think, you know, it's been mentioned before, you know, I've worked with Colchester Borough Council, they are responsive, they respond to challenges, they respond to legal challenges. Tendring District Council tends to be a little bit less responsive. You know, when I used to work at Shelter, when there was legal aid in North Essex, and we have been to court, because Tendring District Council will take it all the way many times, and then usually lose. But now legal aid is not available, so we have to find other ways of approaching these things. And so this is the final thing that I was going to say, is that legal remedies have their limits, as proven. So they are only one tool in acting for social change. So for example, what we can do at Essex Law Clinic is point you in the right direction. We can help you understand your rights, but we can't take you there. We're not legal aid. Legal aid isn't here. This is the reality that we're now living in. And it comes back to, you know, people doing things for themselves with help, with assistance, knowing their rights and taking things forward. You've got good support groups, people like Bent the Red, the Happy Club. There is good community support groups, and it's about working together based on the right information to make those challenges. But there are also areas where there aren't any legal remedies. Unaffordable private rents, local housing allowance that's too low, Section 21 no fault evictions, that's something that came up in the last JMIC meeting. Well, they've started a consultation, and that's why I mentioned it, because there are only technical defences to Section 21. There's no fault, the landlord doesn't have to have a reason. But because of a number of challenges and a lot of campaigning, the government are now looking to do a consultation when they've finished with their other political shenanigans. A consultation is a starting point, but for a Conservative government to be talking about consultation on Section 21 is actually a big step forward. It makes it likely that there's consensus across the parties to do something about it. But that's not a legal remedy, that's a political remedy. And in many cases, campaigning is the only solution. If you want to stop the freeze on the local housing allowance, that's a political issue. There isn't a legal challenge to that. And with that, with the thought that there are some legal remedies and actually individual situations can be affected and there can be a ripple effect, but then in some situations actually campaigning and collective action and local organising is what's needed to change the situation. And it's about knowing which remedy is appropriate in which case. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Roy to talk a bit more about local organising and collective action.
Thanks very much, Lucy. So I'm going to kind of highlight a different route, a different way of going about something, because, you know, there's different, people can get smart, like I say, they share knowledge and you learn skills. So, you know, I'm going to highlight another win, which was very inspiring. So, some people might be old enough to remember, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. Yeah. People trying to get a home, and that would be in the window or whatever. Well, you could say a modern day equivalent is no DSS. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. So it's basically class discrimination, saying, you know, we don't want people on benefits. So their access to housing as their human right is being blocked. So no smokers, no DSS. Yeah. Exactly. So most people are familiar with that. What most people are not familiar with is lots of our well-known banks have been selling mortgages with a no DSS clause for the buy-to-let sector. So people have taken out mortgages as landlords for getting second homes, or they might have multiple homes, and they're not allowed to let to people on benefits. So it's completely legal, and TSB, Santander, NatWest, RBS, all were promoting these buy-to-let mortgages. Ironically, in 2008 and soon after, a lot of these banks got into trouble because of financial crash. So they got bailed out absolutely billions. I mean, you go online and look it up. Individual banks got billions. The whole total, I'm not sure about, but
30,000 people
Pardon?
£30,000 per person in the UK.
There you go, £30,000 per person in the UK. So basically, these banks were getting state handouts, money that we have worked hard and paid taxes so they can keep afloat, then discriminate against people who are basically just trying to live, you know. So, you know, we've seen since that day rough sleeping and homelessness and rents have all risen. There's many more renters now, and wages have been depressed, and there's been a decrease in affordable homes. So basically, it's a simple fact. A lot of people are worse off, and a small group of people are quite a bit richer as a result of reckless trading on the stock market, etc. So basically, what can we do about it? As individuals, we're powerless. The odds are stacked against us. The system's stacked against us. So now I want to kind of highlight 3 community groups, and they all kind of started around the same time, around 2014, 2015, and they was all focusing mostly on housing. So you've got Acorn, Living Rent in Scotland, and the London Renters Union, and their ethos was about building power in the community, so collective power in the community. And it started with, there's all independent groups, they were kind of aware of each other, and, you know, they just wanted to try and stand up for people's rights and stop people getting evicted, that kind of thing. So they started with small things. So there was something like that they call member support. So if you're a member, that might mean you've been along to a meeting or you pay a couple of pounds a week or whatever. You know, they get people's deposits back. Deposits are supposed to be put in deposit schemes. Often landlords would put them, then they wouldn't respond when people wanted their deposit back. So then, you know, it led to a lot of difficulty for people getting their next home. And a lot of the kind of tenancies were only 6 or 12 months, so people was constantly moving. Another thing is, like we've been talking about, Section 21, people was getting evicted. People was living in unsafe homes, they was in bad disrepair, but they just be ignored. But with collective action, these groups were, you know, they were putting a bit of pressure on landlords, on letting agents, maybe the council to do inspections, maybe the council to prosecute wherever it's appropriate, and they was getting some small successes. But they were aware of the no DSS clause in the mortgages, but basically they'd never really worked together in a collaboration before, but they all got together in a collaboration. Kind of what triggered it was there was a landlord and they got a remortgage, and they had to evict their tenant very reluctantly because they no longer could have that tenant because they was on benefits. So that kind of triggered this campaign. So they called the campaign Yes DSS. Now, you know, we're talking massive multinational banks, very powerful. How are a few community groups going to overturn these banks? But what they did, they organised direct action. So they decided to picket and you know, occupy lots of banks up and down the country, and just go in there and say, we've got this one simple demand. Drop the discriminatory clause preventing landlords from renting to benefit claimants. So they've done the action, I think November last year was the main action that they took out. And the effect was, well, first of all, it created national attention. But then NatWest, I'm going to focus on NatWest for a minute, they offered to consult the groups as part of a review. Later on, they retracted that, and then they ignored dialogue. So, the renters in these groups voted for further action. Within 5 minutes of NatWest being informed of this, they was on the phone, and they were begging for the action to be cancelled. And then on March 2019, they got confirmation. NatWest will be lifting all restrictions on landlords renting to tenants in receipt of housing benefit and extending short hold assured tenancies from 12 to 36 months, which allows landlords to offer the security of longer tenancies. So that was a big win. Also, TSB, Santander caved in. So all these banks were beaten by people power. So, like the point I made earlier is, yeah, there's some people in the world who've got a lot of capital and they got a lot of wealth, so they have power. But you can have people capital and that, and basically, as the name over there says, unite. If people unite in solidarity, they can win.
Right, could I just ask that? When you started talking to us, did you say that legal aid wasn't available to the individual?
No, I didn't say that.
No,
I was
Lucy,
basically saying.
Lucy,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Tony.
when you first started, did you say legal aid is not available to the individual?
I'm saying geographically here in North Essex and in Suffolk there are no legal aid providers for housing in this area that can take things forward.
When I got my Section 21 non-fault eviction in February this year, I went through lots of different places and asked, and I applied direct to .gov.uk.
The Civil Legal Advice Gateway.
And I got legal aid granted for my eviction. So there are ways that you can get it. I got it individually, and they granted it.
And did they represent you?
But I've still got the legal aid granted because I haven't got my deposit complete yet. So my legal aid is, and I sent him an email that I changed the address. He said, that's okay. Let us know when you've got an issue and we will back you in court.
Yeah, so I wasn't saying that legal aid is not available, there's no legal aid providers in Essex or Suffolk. There's a massive campaign by the Law Society because it's what's called a legal aid desert. So it means that you cannot go and see a solicitor and there's not a solicitor who can represent you in court here in Essex or in Suffolk.
Yeah, well, I applied direct
to the Civil Legal Advice Gateway.
He said, do you want to, well, you have to have some solicitors in the area, but we can represent you from, they nominate.
So where are they?
I've got
Because I did have a client who was represented by someone in Sheffield.
I don't know where it was, but I've done it all by email with them.
Yeah.
And he took it on and we was on the phone. I can email you the link if you want. You've got to cover it, you can. You go
Yeah, it's
direct
Civil
into
Legal Advice Gateway. It's a telephone gateway you can ring up to access.
Yes, yes,
legal
government,
aid.
it's the government. Do you qualify for legal aid?
Yeah.
And then you put in your details and they get back to you. That's direct from the government.
Yeah. Well, it's the same legal aid that you would have through a provider locally. So it's the same legal aid, but there are no providers in North Essex. So, you know, you were able to your case was able to be dealt with remotely. But I've had clients who've been offered legal aid solicitors in London. They've got 4 children, no money, they can't go there.
What you're saying is you can't go to a solicitor locally and they apply for legal aid.
So there's no legal aid providers, yeah. So legal aid still exists, but then you have the problem that the legal aid providers in other counties are now covering 2-3 counties. So if you're lucky enough to get legal aid, you'll be served by someone in Sheffield potentially.
Or somewhere.
If you are. But part of the problem is that we've had clients come to us who've had the telephone gateway service, but it can only go so far. So they weren't able to check their documents or take them.
It's got all the documents, everything.
Yeah.
Everything's done, they sent back, yes, documents are okay. I just sent them off then by
You had someone in Colchester who's having
just attachments.
for Section 21.
Yeah, I sent them off on attachments, this is just fine, that's okay, great. Got everything. And they dealt with it there, and I never seen it.
It's all remote.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant because the Law Society.
It was hard work, mind you, it wasn't easy.
Yeah. Well, but that's brilliant that the Civil Legal Advice Gateway are taking up the slack because what the Law Society are putting out is that this is a legal aid desert where it's not being served, and the same in Suffolk. So if the Civil Legal Advice Gateway have got capacity, then that is great. We've managed to get
I think I was very lucky. Anyway, I thought
No, it's a really good point. Thanks for raising it.
Very patiently, Coldo has been waiting all this time, and he's got some very inspiring stories to tell us. So, if we let Coldo speak, and then we'll have maybe 10 minutes or so at the end, and there can be more questions, if that's okay. So, Coldo, would you like to go ahead?
My pleasure. Alright, so thank you first of all to United Community and to Essex University for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Coldo and I work for a human rights charity called Just Fair. So we use reports like the one by Philip Olsen and other things that come from the United Nations to document what's going on with social rights in the UK and then to bring about change. And by social rights I mean things that you guys know already, but housing, health, social security, benefits, welfare reform, these issues. So we look at to what extent the reality of this country complies, meets these international standards, and then we work with people to try to campaign to bring about the change. Move to the next one, please. So before Philip Olsen visited in November, we produced reports, and these are just two examples right before and right after, where we document to what extent welfare reform doesn't really meet the international standards that the UK has voluntarily subscribed to. Next week. And these are, next week. We have an open mic event similar to what you guys did, I think, in this room a few days later in East London, with exactly the same purpose of gathering testimonies and analysis from the people who are struggling with the consequences of austerity. That was in London, in East London, but we also were with him in Newcastle. So Newcastle was actually the second or third place that he visited in the mission. And Newcastle, these are pictures of him in the Western Food Bank of Newcastle. Newcastle has the dubious honor of having the largest food bank in the country. There are 46,000 people that depend on the food bank per year to survive. And these are some of the pictures. And I also included these two messages from Facebook that you cannot read, so you will have to believe me that these messages say very appreciative things, similar to what you guys have been saying actually today, about how important it was to have someone of such importance come from New York with the whole United Nations umbrella, come here and listen to you. And they were making similar points here on Facebook. So that was from the UN Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights, who visited Newcastle, to the next step, please, next, to the Social Rights Alliance of the North East. So remember the Philip Olsen was here in November. So a month later, we launched in Just Fair, we launched what we call the Social Rights Alliance of the North East. And we did it at an event on 10 December 2018, so about a month after the visit. 10 December is a Human Rights Day, and it was the 70th anniversary of the United UN Declaration of Human Rights. So we thought that was a perfect day to say, listen, it's important that Philip Olsen was here, speaking of the North East. It's very important, but now he's gone. What are we going to do with the report? What are we going to do with the concerns? What are we going to do to make the changes that we need to see in the UK? So we launched it in December, and since then we've done 4 things. And I want to share these 4 things with you in case any of them sound interesting for you guys to explore here at JRE. So the first one is a pledge for social rights. This is quite simple. We brought 4 things, 4 messages, to try to get as many people as possible behind this message, this pledge. And the 4 things are, it took us a while to write them, but basically are 4 very simple ideas. We believe that we are entitled to the right to health, housing, social security and education. We believe we are entitled to that. We believe public authorities have the duty to meet my rights to health, to housing, to social security. We believe that if public authorities are not meeting that, I should be able to go to court and claim redress, and we believe that people must be listened to. So these 4 things, I'm entitled to these rights, you public authorities should respect that. If you don't respect that, I should be able to go to court, and whatever you do, you have to listen to. Yeah? In essence, that's what the pledge is about. And it's about trying to get as many people as possible in the northeast of England to be behind this message. But that clearly is not enough. So second thing, campaigning workshops. These are some pictures, that's me here, with my colleague Anya, who is my colleague who works there in Newcastle. And these are some pictures from workshops that we've been doing with activists, with people like yourselves, people who are volunteers of different charities, or simply people who are struggling with universal credit. By the way, Newcastle was the first large city in the UK where universal credit was fully rolled out. So they really know how painful it is. So we've been organising these workshops with two purposes really. One, to raise awareness about the existence of social rights, about the existence of what Alston has been saying and the standards. That's first. And the second goal is to do something about it, to identify the issues that people really care the most about, not in abstract terms, but really the things that matter to them locally. And I think the things that matter to them in the Northeast are similar to the things that matter to you guys here, based on what I heard earlier. Two things that come up very frequently are transport and cuts public transport, the bus, and closure of libraries. And I'm pretty sure that these are things that are also relevant here in Essex. So these are just two pictures from two events that we had 2 weeks ago in Durham and Newcastle. And then on Wednesday next week, we have another one in Middlesbrough. All right, third thing, the socio-economic duty and the local elections. So I don't know whether you guys had local elections on 2nd of May. Did you as well?
Yes.
Okay, because it wasn't in the whole of the country. So in the Northeast, of the 12 local authorities, 10 of them had local elections. So what did we do? We got in touch with every single candidate standing in the local elections in these 10 authorities, or with as many of them as we could. We got in touch with them, not on our own, not just fair, but also the Equality Trust and Thrive, which is a membership group in Teesside of people who are struggling, so they themselves are the campaigners. And we got in touch together with as many of the candidates as possible. And we asked them, if you guys are elected, do you pledge to implement the socio-economic duty in your local authority? And we explained to them what the local socio-economic duty is. And it will take me a while to explain to you what it is, but it's basically one clause in the Equality Act that since 2010 the UK government has ignored. They have acted as if it wasn't there. They have pretended it's not there. And it imposes a duty on local authorities to ensure that they document how much their policies are increasing inequalities. Yeah? So it's about inequality. It's about inequality locally. Yeah? And the government has ignored the duty altogether, but councils, if they want to, they can implement it voluntarily. It's not legally required, but they can implement it voluntarily. So we have asked councillors and candidates, if you get elected, will you push internally for this to happen? And we got 58 councillors and candidates making the pledge. I mean, 58 out of about 360. It's a minority, but we get in there. We get in there. We need many more, but we get in there. So now we're doing the work with a follow-up to try to remind them, hey, in April you said you were going to do this. Are you really going to do it now that you were elected? So now we are at that stage. And the fourth thing is motions passed by local authorities. So we have worked with councillors in the 12 local authorities in the Northeast, and we drafted a motion for them so they could pass in locally. And the motion is about urging the government to take seriously the report by Philip Alston, implementing the socio-economic duty, and reversing some of the cuts introduced with welfare reform. This is basically what the motion is about. It's a little bit longer than that, but in essence that's what we asked them to do. And so far we have North Tyneside, South Tyneside, Newcastle and Middlesbrough, and ... because I'm pretty sure that we only have 4 at the moment, so I'm pretty sure with a little more work we will get some more. So these are just some ideas, pledge, some workshops to raise awareness and to mobilize people, the campaign with councillors to make them implement the socio-economic duty and the Equality Act in full, and the motions with local authorities. You guys may have different ideas, but this is working quite well. I'm pretty sure that in a year, if I come back, I'll be able to tell you some more things. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carlos. Really inspiring. We haven't got loads of time, but many questions would be really good. Who would like to speak? This gentleman here.
Why, if you reckon you don't accept that, why haven't you taken services out of it, looking more right, and put services into it to help with? But 17 months ago, I was an alcoholic. I went through these jobs, I was like the job too. And I had to get help like that, Matthew David, to call like that Matthew David, to help people like I was, like they alcohol and that, trying to give up, trying to find jobs. It's all down to the government. They need to help us we will try to do that, and then you come down and help.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do a very quick response to that. I mean, it's just basically bringing, there's a policy of austerity, and I totally agree with you, it's ridiculous. There's people in this country who've got so much money that, you know, they can probably make a castle out of pound notes or something, do you know what I mean? But basically, there's not enough pressure on them, I don't know, and people have become apathetic, like some of the people have been saying people aren't voting enough. So, you know, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think that some of the policies and the way the media present, you know, sort of the way people are living and demonise people in places like Chadwick is, you know, we've got to fight back against that. But I'll let someone else.
It's the good old, you know, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's as simple as that. And I think until we get up and fight against it, you know, which we are now, you know, you've got to get into that. It can take time, and it will be critical, and it will be frustrating. If we get there, you know, it will be worth it. So.
The last gentleman who spoke, I'm interested in what you were saying to the local district councillor, so very interested, so if you give us some information on that, I'd like to ask the question of sending district councillors, they most probably don't do anything, but I'm interested in asking, so what you did with those councillors up in North.
Yeah, about the social economic duties specifically, yeah. So, well, I mean, I'd be very happy to share both things. So the motion.
If you can't, somebody they can share with it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to send you the motion, and if you guys can push it internally, that'd be great.
If you can send it over to me, then what I'll do is
I'll give you my details later.
But even if so, if you could say to how we'd actually get to implement one of these workshops or
the workshops.
Yeah.
So they actually, yeah, it's a good question. So the workshops at the moment, we are delivering the workshops, of course, entirely for free. This is part of what we believe in and what we do. So it's entirely free, and sometimes we even provide some coffee and tea if we can afford it. So we're doing it for free. But at the moment, we are working on what we call a conversations toolkit. So it's about trying to write down how we do it, so how we prepare the workshops, so you guys or anyone can use it and develop the same workshop with whatever changes you guys want to make. But just so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time you do it. So we're writing it down so everyone can use it. We don't have it ready yet, but hopefully within a month or two, we'll have these ready for all activists around the country to use.
So you've already had an effective workshop?
Yes, we have had two, and we're having a third one. But these are, we organize them, we deliver them. But so we want other people to be able to deliver them themselves.
No, I understand that. So just on what you've actually learned so far, could you not send that on? Because obviously we're eager to get something like that going. I mean, yeah, I am a campaigning activist, as Nicole knows. And one thing that none of you actually hit on at all was as regards to the equal opportunities that the 1950s women are not receiving as regards to their pension. And that is the thing that I actively fight on. Locally, I actively fight on quite a few things, but one of the other things, and this is why I'm saying tendering council are not receptive at all, I was fighting on the street lighting, which is a big issue here. And at one of the meetings, it was a case of, as like here tonight, you had your hand up to ask a question, and the chairperson went all the way around and totally avoided me, and then said, and as we move on, and I said, excuse me, as we move on, I said, excuse me, be quiet. So I said, excuse me, do we the public not have the right to be heard? No! But a big mistake was that we actually had, and she knew at the time that she thought they'd gone, we had the BBC recording the street lighting. And as I actually left, because I was being evicted, right, as I actually left, the camera was saying to me, I said, oh, here comes Mrs. Smith, blah, blah, we must have an answer. So they said, and what's the answer on the street lighting? I said, I wouldn't know, so they've been thrown out, and that went out live on the television. but I have never, ever received an apology from Chairperson Guglielmi.
We
Never.
spoke about this yesterday, didn't we? That
Total
it's just, I was
ignorance.
in that room, so I can vouch that that happened, you know, without the cameras. And it was a complete sweep, almost, you know, the few of us that were fighting the street lights, it was a good few years ago now, and we're still
Five.
going. 5 years ago now, we're still going. You know, it was a bit like, we'll ask you, everybody else who they didn't recognise will answer the question. But, you know, one of us got our hand up, it was a case, let's just jump over that. You know, so if, you know, Councillor Casey can get something moving and can help in any way, it would be very, very grateful.
Well, the workshop, I mean, would be absolutely amazing. Like to be not just for the housing problems, but for lots of issues that we've actually got here, and try and get people actually out on the street then.
Just very, very quickly, Andrew's wanted to respond and he's been very patient, but just out of interest, the things that Colwell's talked about, the workshops and the other ones, put your hand up if you'd be interested in getting involved in that kind of thing. That's really encouraging. So, I mean, I think what's really important is we stay in touch with each other. So if people want to leave their names, write their names down, we have a list of people, because if they're going to run this kind of initiative, we want numbers, we want people to turn up. So, you know, that's really, really good. And in different groups we can work together. So, sorry about that. And
I just want to say really, really briefly that picks up on a number of things that people have said and resonates with what Danny was saying about the Happy Club. I was a human rights person long before I ever heard of human rights. And I was a human rights person because, like you, I grew up in an environment where people kept telling me all the time I'm shit. Right? Teachers told me I'm shit. Police officers told me I'm shit. Local councillors would say, you're shit. You mean nothing to me. I don't care about you. One of the most important things, there are two obstacles to the kind of activism that's required in order to bring about change. Two obstacles, apathy, but also the ways in which people who are treated like crap can slowly internalise a diminished sense of self-worth. Right? You don't think any longer that you actually are entitled to be treated properly. That actually, I'm not shit, it's just you're not a very good teacher, you don't provide me with a decent education. I'm not shit, I live in poor housing that you're responsible for. So I think it's really important, it does resonate strongly, I think, with some of what Danny was saying about the Happy Club. That sense of self-worth, actually, absolutely crucial. And human rights is a legal thing, it's a political thing, it's about campaigning and all those things are absolutely crucial, but it starts with a state of mind. And the state of mind is, I'm not crap, I'm just as valuable and just as worthy as you are, but you need to treat me in a more respectful and more effective way. Sorry.
Tony, please.
Well said.
I'm Tony Francis, PCT Hopping Parish. We've got similar issues over there as you have, and focusing on those, and getting the same response from TDC, which is no response at the moment. But I'm actually part of Colchester Homes Community of Practice. That is so different to the response from TDC. It's not really a question, it's more kind of, I wonder if you could sort of identify your successes with your relationship with CBC and see if that can be transferred over here when you start negotiating with TDC, because there does seem to be a vast difference in how things are run, and it's ridiculous. You know, our borders are right next to each other, and of course there's a crossover of staff from Colchester Borough Council to TDC. You know, it's ridiculous that there's such a vast difference.
But there's a thing that some of my colleagues will know called Human Rights City. It's a network of human rights cities. It's basically places like York, Barcelona, that part of the world. Where the local authorities and local politicians commit to respecting human rights in the way that Just Fair and Congo was describing in terms of the North East Alliance. Commit to respecting human rights. We are working at a very, very early stage with Colchester Borough Council to encourage them to move in that direction.
Are you aware of community practice run by Colchester Borough Council?
No, actually.
You should be.
You should connect.
Yeah, that'll be done.
Thank you.
This gentleman here, please.
Just one simple question, slightly personal, but going back to the street lamps, I recently get a file out here, which I've measured is 5 foot long, 6 inches deep, and over 18 inches wide. And nobody takes responsibility for that over and under. I phoned up the 3 councils, 10 our local. The last explanation I got was that it doesn't belong to the council. Yeah, it's the Queen.
Yes. And also it suits them to now they don't have to spend the money sorting it out.
You've got buses back from Down there. Irons, and so the day I drove into this hole, it was coming in from about storm water, so I couldn't see it till it was too late. I moved over to allow my car move through.
We've got a similar one in Walton as you come through, it's almost on the border of Bridge and Walton, it's the road that separates the two. And I live over that way now, and you would not believe the difference between Walton and Bridge. You know, it's, and this, I've been saying for years, sending pictures, people to go, what things we need to return our councillors, you don't get anything from the government, they just say, privately, what can we do? So when someone crashes the car and actually dies, they want to wait till somebody is seriously injured before anyone will do anything.
Well, if it's a motorcyclist or even a cyclist wanting to, that could be a very...
And that's what they'll wait for. Then they'll have a reason to do it.
And whether I've got a sign of paper, sure there's somewhere around these.
Actually, it's quick.
If anything, they'll actually have less instances to act if something happens. Because they've currently got to get out for it's not wide enough to be a highway. So,
There's no road tax on it.
oh no, they'll have you for that, definitely, yeah, every day.
And there's no insurance, because I'm not Philip, and it's a private road, I wouldn't be allowed to drive
Very quickly, I want to have a chat with you about that, and we try and put our heads together and see what we can come up with. So,
I live in Walsall, and it's only down the road, and I begrudgingly drove my vehicle home. The wheel's ruined, the tracking's gone, the ABS lights come on, and I said, what can be done about it? I will get back to you. When I get back a week later, it's on the internet, but nothing's happened.
I had a story in Italy, just very quickly, where the councils and everything, the government are so, they can't afford to fix the roads apparently, and the cost that saves is nothing compared with the amount the motorists has had to pay out in repairing their car more regularly. So that just highlights it really. Rob, please.
Firstly, I'd like to ask Andrew a question. Firstly, Andrew, I want to thank you for working alongside us as United Community and putting on this event tonight, so thank you. I would just like... everybody involved, thank you. I would just like to ask, as what we've learned through the last two meetings, the meeting in November and the meeting from tonight, what do you think the next steps should be in moving forward, and how, as you, as an organisation, will be able to support us as United Community and the community of Jaywick in moving forward?
So we're going to arrange a brainstorming session on campus for late September, early October, which will be the next available time for us. We're going to invite various people from here, from the organisations we've been working with, to sit down, identify the core issues, and then identify foundations and trusts and funding sources that can support various initiatives to support your campaigning work. So that's the first obvious and most important landmark next step. And then we... Sorry.
What location would be at?
At the university, at Leicester University. The most important thing is for you to be speaking to your local community representatives, for you to be feeding back the things that are most important to you. The reason we distributed the survey at the very beginning was, again, to get some sense of the human rights issues that are most important to you. We had a meeting, myself and Katya, who's a colleague of mine, had a meeting with a colleague on campus at university this morning, and her area is trusts and foundations, so she knows that there are trusts and foundations out there that are awarding relatively support precisely this kind of work. So that's one of the next steps, and we're working with other organisations as well, Rob, at these different levels, at local authorities and religious organisations to keep pushing this forward.
Thank you.
Charlie?
Well, I was willing to address this gentleman's issue with mental health provision and alcohol reduction initiatives. You've got what's called lottery, really. Some parts of the country do very well, right? Because you feel there's a great need there. But North East Essex, there's tending council not pushing it as you know, funding drop for mental health, funding drop for detox, all of that stuff.
It's not even just the development supposed to go through now. I noticed with REF, you cannot get it on the NHS, whereas I put it on the and you receive it. And she's what, some 30 miles up the road from me? But she was looked at in a completely different way to somebody in her situation in Essex. It is a complete postcode lottery. Things like this tonight, that people are putting together and getting up and actually saying that enough is enough. You know, we fought long and hard, and we will have to fight hard. But if it eventually gets better, then I think that's what we aim for.
Considering that the British government originated the majority of the Human Rights Charter, I find it laughable that they want to step out of it and they are treating their own people the way that they are. We've got King John back again, in one way or another, in the British government.
King Boris, even worse.
Oh, well, no.
Sorry.
Maurice,
very nice,
we haven't got much time for any more questions. This gentleman here, please.
Yeah, answers your question that you just asked about this thing where people, this question you're asking about this grocery, the Christmas issue. That was on Indian News tonight. They are going to stop it. How? I don't know how they're going to stop it, but there was on about it on Indian News tonight, where the government actually said that it's unfair that there should be a lottery very soon. It's time we done something about it and stopped it.
Well, however they want to stop it, we will get behind that, which is the right thing.
But that was on the Indian News tonight.
Here, we will get behind. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, the IVF is that they cannot. Everybody will.
Well, that's one result. It may not be the battle, but it is the war.
Very quick.
4 years ago, I was granted DLA indefinitely because what I worked for indefinitely. Why have I got to apply for PRP now? I've got to go through the whole thing again with PRP. I've got to go for interviews for PRP.
You can get that changed, man. I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah, I'm just going to put, yeah.
This gentleman at the back, please.
Just touching on what you said from the start, people power, and then you fantastic guys with all your wealth of knowledge, is there any way you can now make it bigger, say for example, Culture Football Stadium, Princess Theatre, so you can get more people involved to get that message out there, because that would be fantastic, or even have your stalls, because you guys are the ones that can change one person's life, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. It is a collective thing though, it's like
Yeah.
people can't do a lot,
Just
loads of
together,
people
yeah.
come together. But I think Tony might say something about that, because he got his hand up and
I wasn't listening to very quickly, that gentleman over there, there is a community-led alcohol support group, 7 p.m. every Saturday night at 6. Colchester Stadium, you know, it's a vision of mine to fill that with a concert, to raise substantial money to get some affordable housing built. If we were to get, I think Stormzy would be the guy because of his grandma's and stuff. I think it would be the attraction. That can make, one concert can make £2 million in that stadium.
Fantastic idea. Any more questions? We nearly run out of time. We all done yet? Oh, what's this guy here?
I've got a question. How are you reaching out to schools and people my age?
Yeah, such a good question. So there's someone sitting here who I remember from an outreach trip that I did a while back in Claxon. We have been doing and putting together a schools outreach program through the schools outreach at the university. All of us in our various ways over the years have been doing school visits, but in a very informal, ad hoc way. And we're now doing that in a concerted way. Teachers, however, are unbelievably overworked. And when you say to them, so how about we come in and do something for the students, they say, yeah, that's a great idea, but they don't get back to us, for example. But what we have now is 12 local schools. Where are you studying? Where are you going to school at the moment? Academy. Right. I think actually one of them. We've got 12 local schools that we are, so form colleges and year 12 and above for the moment, that we're going to be doing schools outreach work over the next school year, academic year.
Just to add to that, Unite got quite a good initiative. Charlie here has been into schools, uniting schools. Rebecca's been into uniting schools. And basically, I mean, you ask a lot of young people in school, what's a trade union? Like they'll say, what's a trade union? Basically, what I'm employed by, what I haven't, I've never heard of it. So it's small beginnings, but we try and reach out to everyone, all ages, people. So I think Nick wants to say a few words, and then we're going to thank everyone for winding the meeting down, and thanks very much for everyone.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, because I know it's not easy.
Oh, it's alright, I go there.
Yeah, we're called Unite Community for a reason. And I think if we can get people behind us working with us, we can do as much as we can. You know, no movement came easy. In fact, it was the suffragette chance. Yes, yeah, there's but it's all about working as a team. You know, this came together because we want to come together different organisations. And I think this isn't just about Jaywick either, it's about children as a whole. I've been in Claxton, I've been in Walton, I've been in Newton, and now there's Coburns. It's all over the shop, and it's about showing you that we haven't had enough of austerity, we haven't had enough of cuts, we haven't had enough of our human rights being pushed to the limit. And it's about time we all got together as a group and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I can't promise we'll win every battle. I really can't. But small wins along the way will eventually reap rewards. You know, nothing comes easy. I think it's to fight hard and we pull together as a team. You know, it's 50 kills to do it. You know, it's all everything there. It's a community-based project. Whatever your principle of relation, whatever your size or role, this is about communities, about putting together. So thank you for all coming out, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you very much. One more question over here. Oh, I beg your pardon. All right, so thank you to all the speakers. Thank you for everyone coming to this.